Well, welcome to the channel. It is literally the day before New Year's, so last day of 2025, and for this video, I wanted to very briefly talk these right here. Now, I'm not doing a full review on these today. These are each going to be in their own video because there are 3 sets here, all of them, quite large. I've got one sitting next to me fully built that you will see here, but the independent reviews of these will be their own separate videos. However, in this video, I wanted to focus on specifically the heads from these sets because they do something quite unique, and it's actually something I've kind of wanted to see even LEGO potentially delve into. Whether or not they'd be successful, I don't know. There's a lot of competition in the market of buildable kits out there. Obviously, LEGO does their own specific thing within that, and they even have competition, of course, within the LEGO market, right? But in general, what I really appreciate, admire about these sets, and I'm going to go ahead and pick one up now. I don't have the heads on it because they're sitting in front of me. I want to show them off independently from the model. Is the build of these guys is quite phenomenal. I went ahead, built all 3 of these so I could get them ready to go, not only for pictures, but also, of course, for these videos as well. And the builds on all of them were quite enjoyable. The build instructions were also very clear as well. Again, I'll take a look at those in the instructions or in the reviews for those as well. And it's also worth noting too, because each of these feature some pretty prominent and, in my opinion, desirable colors like dark green, sand green here, that from what I can tell, with the exception of one piece in one set specifically, which I'll talk about, all of the colors seem to match Legos, which is fantastic. Minus, of course, maybe the gold. Knockoff gold has never really quite reached the standard of Lego's Pearl gold. This is reasonably close. It's definitely closer than some by any means, and does produce some usable pieces for sure. But in general, I never expect Pearl gold to match, so I would have been shocked had it. However, everything else here matches Lego color pretty much 1 for 1. There's one set from this wave of sets, though. It is a pterodon, which has this head right here. And the set includes some CCBS style sockets in a few different colors. And I find it quite interesting because one socket in particular is a white color socket. I'll get back to that in a moment. But it's clearly manufactured from some other factory. It's not the same mold as the other sockets used in any of the other sets or even within the same set. It's only the white sockets in the set that appear this different mold. And they're notably worse quality. By worse quality, I just mean like flashing. They function as sockets just fine. They're not fragile. Nothing wrong with that there, at least not from my testing. But in general, that's like the one piece that I really struggle to recommend. And it's more or less because the color on it is more of like a light aqua color than white. It's somewhere in between. It's not quite light aqua. It's not quite white. It's right in the middle there. There is one other piece in these sets, though, that I also have to give a warning about, and it is specifically, thankfully, a common piece from LEGO. This one right here. Now, this one's not from this set. This is actually from Enlighten, or Q-Man, you might know it as now. So it's flat silver. LEGO doesn't make it in flat silver. But I chose this one because the set also includes this piece in flat silver as well, in multiple locations. However, the plastic that's used on this piece in this set, I have no way to confirm this, but I think is polycarbonate. The problem with that is I think the axles in the set are also polycarbonate. And if you don't know, when it comes to polycarbonate, you really don't want to insert a piece of that material into another piece of that material because the coefficient of friction is insane. Like, it's not just the friction that is... I have no descriptor for it. You'll know, not based on the feel, but based on the sound. It screeches when the 2 pieces go together. It's a horrendous sound. It's not going to damage the parts by any means. It's not going to be something you cannot. It's the nails on a chalkboard sound equivalent for plastic, right? And so, unfortunately, this piece is used quite heavily, specifically in this figure, on these axles, and where it is used, yeah, you're going to hear that screeching sound. It's going to be a little hard to insert axles into those pieces. But again, thankfully, LEGO makes that piece, and it's a very common piece from LEGO at that. This set uses it in black and flat silver. Just replace them all with black. You'll be fine. The other 2 sets, I think, only use it in black or white, both colors that LEGO currently makes of that piece. Phenomenal. Everything else from these sets, though, is fantastic. That's why we're pivoting our focus onto the heads for these builds, because the heads on these, they're fantastic. So what I find quite fascinating about these is that it's something I've actually kind of wanted to see LEGO delve into for some time now, in that they're buildable kit heads, but they're LEGO compatible. So they are literally built up in much the same way as a lot of like build kits are, with bars and pegs and tubes that go inside of other bars and yada yada, right? So you may be familiar with these types of builds if you build your own Gundams or other mechas from sprue kits, etc. Although these do not come with sprues, they're actually packaged individually, so all of the tedious work of these has actually been done for you, and they're wonderful quality. The tolerances on them is superb. The paint jobs on them, the few pieces that are painted on them, are done really well. Drum lacquer, it seems, on the gold parts. The eyes on the small heads are all metallic in color as well, I think, at least. Yeah, they're all metallic in color as well. And notably, the bottom here, that ball joint is a mixel ball on a bar, because at the bottom of this head, there's a piece you insert into the build that has a bar connection on it, a bar hole on it. So you could actually leave that mixel ball out and insert this onto any other thing that accepts a bar connection. If you like doing the Toa Mata mod with the posable neck using a 3-length lightsaber bar, for example, like, you could swap that head out for one of these. I don't know why you do it, but you can do it. And again, since the dark green here matches LEGO's dark green, you've got a color match there as well. The blue, or not blue, I don't know why I was saying blue looking at orange. The orange on here matches LEGO's orange as well. The white on here, I'm not positive if that is a painted white. It kind of feels like it may be. It has a texture to it that I'm familiar with a very dry paint, of airbrush, for example. I could be wrong, of course, but it kind of feels like those pieces on this one specifically might be airbrushed. That said, all of these heads look absolutely phenomenal. My favorite of the three may be the orange one, if only because those claws on the top look so cool. And in terms of the overall size, I've got a Kanoe How I can just compare it against. So roughly the same size as the Toa Mata mask. Obviously, your mileage will vary. Each of these head pieces is slightly different, but more importantly, because I think the pieces that really stand out for people are these heads, the dinosaur heads. As I showcased here already, you've got this one, which reminds me probably most of like a Power Rangers type thing, which I quite like. Power Rangers, not really my fandom personally, but I am nostalgic for it, right? I grew up in the 90s, and so yeah, this is a really phenomenal one here. Metallic blue, metallic red, metallic gold, of course, on here as well. Mouths on all of these open. There's also a bar connection on the inside there as well. You can clip things onto if you want to. That's cool. They didn't need to do that. There are no parts in the set that actually connect there, but that's great. And there is a bionicle sized ball joint there as well. Like, they really didn't have to, you know. They could have easily had their own proprietary connection on it and just made their own, but they went out of their way to actually make sure that they were LEGO compatible. There are many other brands that don't do that. There are many brands that I've seen that even use parts that you would think are LEGO compatible until you put them together and you're like, oh, they use a different size ball joint. They use a different size mixer ball. Usually a ball joint, sometimes a bar size joint. But in general, the fact that these are just able to do what you want them to do, and they just work. This head here probably contains the most parts of any of the dinosaur heads. I think that makes sense. It's quite large compared to most of the others. And it is worth noting too, that blade, if that looks familiar to you, it's because it is familiar. It is designed directly off of this one here, maybe about 25% larger, and of course connects to it via a sort of bar and tube method that is popular with many, I don't know, I would say, yeah, many building kits out there. If they're a standardized size, I have no idea. But again, opening the mouth up, there is a bar on the inside of there as well. So once again, you can connect something into it. You can have a minifigure have their hand grab onto it, and then you've got a minifigure in the mouth of it. That's just cool, right? And again, dark green. This is a match for LEGO's dark green. So it's not only that it's a dinosaur head that looks kind of neat, but it is also a dinosaur head that matches LEGO colors. Obviously, the aesthetic is different from LEGO. Like, there aren't any studs. It's quite smooth. It actually has a sort of leathery-like texture, specifically on the green portion of the head on the top here. Not the frills, not the shield, not the silver, but specifically the head, the beak. And all of these have a leather texture on sort of that same area of the head as well. This one around the eyes, kind of hard. You can kind of see it in the ring light there, but like the beak is smooth, and then right around here has that texture. The orange one, the Tyrannosaur head, also same thing. The top portion probably looks the most glossy, but does have that texture there as well. You can kind of see it. And yeah, just all phenomenal designs for each of these. The eyes on them all metallic as well, and the painting is also done exceptionally well. Not only are the tolerances of parts coming together quite good, but the paint is quite good as well. The lines are all matched up really well. There's not a lot of bleed from like one area to the next, you know what I mean? So they're really well designed, well thought out parts, and you get to build them up, and that's quite nice. It gives you a little bit of a touch of this kind of system. If you're somebody who's built a lot of Lego, but you've never built a model kit before, these are, in terms of complexity, not complex at all. There's one of these, and I think it's the orange one, but I could be wrong. No, actually, I think it might be this one. I'm not positive, though. That had an insert that goes on the bottom that connects a bar, and then it also has an insert on the front that connects a bar as well. And one of them rotates the opposite direction, but it's hard to tell in the instructions. The instructions are very clear. I just didn't notice that literally inside that head, there's like a very obvious thing for holding this piece in. And I just didn't see it. I was rushing, I guess. Hard to get all these built and then also try to go to sleep before midnight. Anyway, so yeah, these guys, absolutely phenomenal sets. The builds on all of them were enjoyable. The white and green had a lot of parallels between them as well, the pterodon and the triceratops, which I was surprised by. I would have expected if any of them had any sort of parallels in the build, it would have been the triceratops and the tyrannosaur, since they're more quadrupedal, I guess, at least in their design. Obviously, Tyrannosaur biped. You get the point, though, right? But yeah, no, surprisingly, the pterodon was the one that had more similarity in terms of the core build with this one as seen right here. Let me go ahead, just because I've got it here, might as well throw the head on here now. It does have a mixel ball socket at the neck area, and you might be someone who's not a huge fan of having the dinosaur head on the shoulder. I know it's a very common thing on a lot of these mechas, so either you like it or you don't. You can easily leave it off, but I at least admire that they did that so that all of the parts are here for you when you want to transform the figures, because fun fact, they also transform. Now, I've not done the transformation for the T-Rex figure or the Triceratops yet. I plan to do those probably today, but I have done the transformation for the pterosaur. I will say, if I have any critique of these sets outside of this one piece right here, one socket not quite matching the color and quality, I guess, of the other parts, which is not that bad, all things considered. The biggest grievance that I have is the instructions for the transformation. Some points are a little bit confusing because it seems like they're telling you to do two things multiple times over. It seems a little bit repetitive. I really think that they kind of overextended how long the transformation needed to be, at least for the pterosaur, because there's several points where it's like, okay, the leg needs to rotate here, and then the leg needs to rotate here, and then the next picture shows the leg down again, and then the leg needs to, and it's like, the overall transformation from front to back is not terribly complicated, but boy, those instructions make it overly complicated. So, all things considered, really phenomenal sets. Lots of recolors in these as well. If you are a fan of CCBS, if you're a fan of System 2, although I'm not quite as familiar with how many system pieces here are recolors. Technic as well. There are some Technic panels in here. One type of panel used throughout, I think, all three of the sets. In here, you get them in sand green and you get them in metro green, which is phenomenal. In posability, I'll probably go over a little bit more in the more full-fledged videos, because there needs to be some substance in there, right? But in general, the shells on these sets, sand green, all of the parts that look like they have stickers on them are prints, so there are no stickers in these sets. Your mileage may vary. The instructions booklet showed like a sticker sheet, so maybe some of them get stickers, but I'm just going to assume that there are no stickers. I've not seen it mentioned anywhere. And on top of all of that, yeah, you've got armor add-on pieces in metro green, in sand green as well. So this one maybe is my favorite. I'm definitely biased for one reason, because Triceratops is such a cool dinosaur, of course, but also because dark green is a color I've been talking about for such a long time, needing support from LEGO Technic. So to get even just a handful of Technic pieces here, even just a handful of system pieces here, and even just a handful of CCBS type pieces, Borak eyes, etc. You've got some classic style shell pieces in sand blue. You've got one Hero Factory 1.0 foot in sand blue, only one in the set, unfortunately, but hey, it's better than zero, right? And yeah, so I think I'll talk about these a little bit more further in an upcoming video. Stay tuned for that. But before I end this video, I just want to say, if you are somebody who considers yourself a LEGO purist, I would highly recommend maybe jumping ship. I don't mean that to like say you should abandon LEGO. You should not. I really do love what LEGO does. I've loved the company since I was a little kid. They do obviously do some things that I think are controversial, and everybody's opinion on that's going to be different. They do some things that maybe I don't prefer, but then again, I'm not the only customer that they need to satisfy, right? And in terms of pricing overall, yeah, LEGO is kind of an expensive hobby, but I don't think it necessarily, I think it can warrant that to some degree. You can be smart, and there's a lot of value to get out of LEGO by still buying cheap, because there are plenty of good cheap sets, affordable sets as well that come out of LEGO. But LEGO is sort of expanding that ceiling, if you will, you know, coming out with sets of $800, $900, you know, something like that. It's like, I just won't be buying those sets, simply enough. Also because I'm just generally not interested in those specific themes anyway. Like, I don't need a Star Wars ATST or AT-AT, which I think that's AT-AT. I'm not a Star Wars fan, so why would I bother? Anyway, point being, really, really phenomenal sets. Thank you once again, by the way, to the person who sent these in. I did ask if they wanted to be mentioned in the video. They said, no, don't worry about it. Just say that a viewer sent it in. Rightfully so. Really phenomenal thing. I love the fact that you were able to reach out, and I do hope as well that you will check out, anybody who's listening to this video will check out the Discord, where we also talk about sets like these, but plenty of other stuff too. Over 700 members there. You can check that out. Link is free in the description down below. I'll see you all in the next one. Take care.